What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What If You Could. And today I've got a brilliant, fabulous guest who's gonna help you. We're gonna find love, we're gonna find wealth, we're gonna find fulfillment. We're gonna help you overcome a lot of these things. He's a brilliant young man. So with us today is Alan Lazaros. Hello, Alan.
Gary, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I don't take it lightly to be here. I think about it all the time. I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago, and they really helped me sort of reorient my life in a much more constructive, positive direction. And so I think whatever you give your attention to dictates what you think, what you feel, what you say, what you do, what you believe. And so I do not take it lightly to be here. I really do appreciate you having me, and thank you for the compliment of calling me a brilliant young man. I hope so.
I believe so. I believe so. And to prove that, what I'm going to do very quickly, I'm just going to fire off a little introduction so people know a little bit more about you and from where you come, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. This is a little bit about Alan Lazarus. At age 2, my father passed away in a car accident. At age 26, after getting into a nearly fatal car accident myself, I questioned everything I was doing in life. Filled with pain, regret, and confusion, I searched for answers and finally found what I'd been missing all this time: holistic self-improvement. Today, I am grateful to lead a global team of 17 individuals as founder and CEO of Next Level University, a global top 100 self-improvement podcast that helps people reach their own unique potential in more than 175 countries. As a coach, trainer, and podcaster, I believe in a heart-driven but no BS approach to achieving both external success and internal fulfillment. And I'm excited to help you and your community get to the next level of life, love, health, and wealth. And that is an awesome mission, my friend. That is an awesome mission. I'm going to let you go because you've got so much to talk to. You've done so much, but I always just open with just one question because we are the What If You Could podcast. So have you had a what if I could moment, or what if you could, or what would what if you could mean to you?
Is the frame of what if you could, from the frame, there's two ways I'm approaching that question. The first one is it, if I could change something in the world, what would it be? Or is it, what if I could actually achieve this? Would I go for it? Type of thing.
Wherever it takes you.
Okay, I'll do both. I'll do both.
Good.
So, be the change you wish to see in the world is definitely a quote that resonates a lot. And if I could change something in the world, it would be, I would have everyone take inventory of their life and take personal responsibility for the part they've played in it. And even though a lot of the pain and suffering they've been through, similar to mine, might not be their fault, it is their responsibility to make a meaningful life out of that. And as someone who came from adversity with losing my dad, my stepdad left at 14, in some ways I kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14, if you want to get into that. But none of that was my fault, but it is my responsibility to find a way to make a life out of that, make a meaningful life out of that. So if I could change anything in the world, it would be more people taking personal responsibility, more people believing in themselves, and more people believing in their bigger, better, brighter future, and more people believing in their own potential, particularly their unique potential. And that's actually very in tandem with my passion, my purpose, and my mission at Next Level U. It's Next Level U, pun intended. I just turned 36 in November, and I say this is Alan version 3.6, and Alan version 3.6 is significantly better than Alan version 3.2 or 3.1 or 2.6. And I always say everyone does their best, not everyone is bettering their best. And I've tried really hard to better my best. I take inventory of my life every year, and I try to rewatch the movie of my own life, and I try to look at what I regret, look at the mistakes I made, look at where I didn't maximize my time, effort, and money, which are the only resources we all have, by the way, and try to be a better person, a better, unique version of me. And the last piece I'll share here is I think for a long time in the self improvement space, because I started self improvement really 10 years ago after that car accident at 26, I used to, I think, unconsciously try to be different than I am. And now I think it starts with self awareness, then self acceptance, then self improvement. I think that's a better formula because self awareness is, oh, okay, so I am, an ectomorph. I am tall and skinny. Maybe I'm not naturally strong, but I am really intelligent. So, okay, that's self awareness. Okay, self acceptance. So I'm not going to win a strongman competition. Self accept that. But I also am really smart and maybe smarter than most. So let me accept that too, even though that's scary. It's certainly scary to say out loud. And then I'm going to improve from there. So maybe I'm a better tech CEO than I am a strongman competition person. So let me channel my self-improvement and not try to be different than who I am, but try to amplify who I am, the best version of me. And that's next level you. So it's a place you go to reach your potential, and it's very unique because unfortunately that's actually not that common.
It's not common at all. When you say better your best, how do you gauge that? What parameters? Should I have more money? I'm stronger. I'm this, I'm that. I mean, when you say better your best, how do you shape that? What do you base that on for yourself or for us?
Well, it depends. So I have 28 people actually, as of maybe 29 on Friday, but I've been coaching for 10 years, mentoring for 10 years. I started coaching 8 years ago because the first 2 years were for free. So I started coaching 8 years ago, and I have 28 people on my roster currently. Some are weekly, monthly, biweekly, all that. So at this point, I've got thousands and thousands of hour-long sessions with individuals from all over the world. So I'm not just saying this. What I would say is everyone has unique goals and unique core values. And once you figure those out, it's like you have your unique goals, which is about the future. You have your unique core values, which is about who you are in the present and how you show up in the present. And then you've got unique potential. Not everyone's going to be a Steve Jobs, for example. So once you understand those three things, now you can align the goals, metrics, habits, and skills and identity with what's aligned for the individual. So rather than some esoteric formula, I'm an engineer, so everything's a formula for me. But to bring it down to earth here, right now, bettering my best is right now on this episode. So I've reviewed a lot of my episodes. I've reviewed shows that I've guested on. I've reviewed different presentations and speeches that I've done. And I have these things called the 25 impact points of effective communication. I've been improving them and iterating on them. But ultimately, I hope that I'm clear and concise, and I hope that I can help people understand themselves and each other and the world at a deeper level. Because when you understand yourself, others, in the world, how it works and why it works that way, how you work and why you work that way, how people work and why they work that way, now you can make effective choices. And so bettering my best and helping others do the same is, who are you? What do you want to achieve? Is that in alignment with your core values? And if so, where do you need to better your best? In other words, some people want to get better at tennis. I don't care about tennis. I'm never going to be good at tennis. I did plumbing recently in our house, and I don't know what I'm doing, and my beautiful girlfriend's father came to help me because I don't know a thing about that, but yet I can take apart this computer and rebuild it better. And so I'm a computer engineer. He grew up doing that stuff. So stay in your sort of passion zone, your strength zone, your genius zone, whatever you want to call it, and then better your best in that regard. And then the last piece of this with better your best is, I think a lot of people think when they better their best, they're thinking of skills, like me being a more effective communicator right now, that's bettering my best. However, what about bettering my best in here? So I have a therapy session after this with a woman named Carol, and it's in 44 minutes. And I want to work on the internal. And my girlfriend last night said, well, what are you going to work on in therapy? Because she's a therapist. She's a clinician. And I said, I want to work on if I have any shame around being more than. Because I think some people are afraid to be less than, and most people, I think they fear being not good enough. I don't have a ton of that, but I definitely have shame around being better than other people at skills or whatever. And I think sometimes being in a room with me can trigger people's insecurities, and that affects my relationship. And then I, have a protector up, and it's this whole thing. But my point of all that as scary as that was to share, is not only am I trying to better my best in external things like communication or leadership or computer skills, but I'm also trying to better my best in terms of how I show up as a man and who I am as a man. Because I think external confidence is your ability to achieve things externally. Internal confidence is confidence in who you really are. And that's a whole nother thing. And I didn't learn that until my 30s because I was confident as hell externally to the point where everyone thought I was arrogant. But I wasn't confident in who I am, particularly socially, because of all that stuff. Yeah.
With all the people that you've worked with and all the training, how often do you run into that where people have a fear of success, are concerned about success, are nervous about success, maybe don't reach internally? They think if I become successful, I'm going to lose some of my best buddies. Maybe I've got this, maybe I bet. How do you run into that? And if you do, how do you get people around that mentally that saying success is not a bad thing? Success is not a four-letter word.
Yeah. So awesome question. First of all, really enjoying this interview already. I think all of us are in this sort of comfort zone between fear of failure and fear of success. And I think it's a percentage, and everything's a percentage in probabilities and statistics and formulas for me because I have a math modality of thinking, which is why I realize I'm not a good communicator because no one thinks in that modality, unfortunately. But what I've got it boiled down to is from all the research that I've done and all the coaching I've done, and I have a lot of data on this too, because everyone tracks metrics and habits in my team and then my clients. I think 94, and again, this is my best educated guess. No one freak out and, take this clip and say he thinks he knows. My best educated guess is 94% of the population is more afraid of failure than success. There's a small percentage of the population that is fearful of success because usually they're really good at everything, and the more successful they become, the more they get ostracized from the tribe. So someone like an Elon Musk, and don't associate me with Elon because I'm not trying to associate myself with anyone, but someone like Elon Musk is not afraid of failure. I mean, he unconsciously is probably more afraid of success on any level because the more successful he becomes, the more alone he is, and the more people are triggered by him. And the more significant, so the way that I see it is I picture a bell curve, and let's picture 100 people in a room, and most of the people are at the center of the bell curve. You have the people that are really, really, really incompetent, and then you have the people that are really, 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 really competent. Depending on where you fall on the bell curve, you are either feeling significant or belonging. What I've learned about myself as someone who falls on the high end of most bell curves, I realize that I crave belonging because I already feel significant. Significance in our culture, particularly the US, but globally, comes from being really good at something. So I got straight A's in high school. I went to one of the best engineering schools in the world. Like, that's very significant. But you're alone because not a lot of semi-math genius engineers are around, right? Engineers are a very small percent of the population, and most people don't think like I do, and they certainly don't reverse engineer 30 years from now. And so I craved belonging and being liked, but most people crave significance. And that's why they post on social and make their lives look better than they really are and all that kind of stuff. So I have more fear of success than I do of failure. Most people have more fear of failure than they do success, but I think all of us have this sort of floor and ceiling between our peer group. And so everyone think of your peer group right now. You don't want to be seen as a failure in comparison to them, so you stay sort of in the middle of the pack, but you definitely don't want to be so successful that you get ostracized from the group energetically or emotionally, because now you trigger everyone with your yacht or your wealth. And so what I've had to do is really help people break out of that comfort zone, and the truth is a lot of them do lose their friends. And I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that based on that, a lot of people go to self-sabotage? They are starting to succeed and get scared and pull back, then they start self-sabotaging themselves?
Absolutely. Of course. Same. Me as well. That's actually why therapy was so helpful, because it helped me realize that my system, Alan, was dialing down every time I would get too far from the pack. And you have to override and get outside your comfort zone in that. Because when I first When I first started working with my business partner, Kevin, 8 years ago, he was super afraid of failure, but wasn't mature enough to admit it yet. And I was super afraid of success, but I didn't know that. And when we first figured out that we have different fears, because we would react differently to everything. And what would bother him wouldn't bother me at all. And what would bother me wouldn't bother him at all. So for me, when we would lose a team member or get villainized, I would be so triggered. And he'd like, doesn't matter. Who cares? We'll be fine without them. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't know it was abandonment issues. It's like, I've been abandoned my whole life, right? And that's my childhood too that we haven't gotten into yet. But
Yeah.
Kev was like, but he would be so triggered when we would take an L on the success front. Like if we bombed a speech, he would be so messed up by that. And I'd be like, dude, we're fine. We'll get it back tomorrow. And so now we started to learn over time, he's deeply afraid of failure because he doesn't think he'll be successful. And I know I'll be successful because that always came fairly easy to me, but relationships never came easy for me. I mean, let's say we both gave a speech. We give many speeches together, and he'd walk into the room knowing everyone's going to love him, and he's going to be funny, and that he's going to be relatable. But he's scared that his speech won't be valuable. I walk in, I know I'll get you thinking differently, and I know my speech is super valuable, and I know I'm a strong orator. But I think everyone's going to hate me and villainize me. And the truth is that's been my life. People, when you walk in the room and you're not like the masses, they go, not like me. What's up with this? Is he arrogant or do I just not believe in myself? And so you basically have these two groups of people. The smaller group is socially I struggle. And when I'm at a barbecue, I don't fit in at all. But when I'm alone, I'm fulfilled as hell and I'm super, super believe in myself. And I work hard behind the scenes, baby. But when I'm socially, I just feel awkward and, not good. Then there's other people who behind the scenes when they're alone, they don't believe in themselves, they struggle, they don't feel good about themselves. But socially, they love life and they're very relatable and they love being around people. And so that's the whole interesting thing about this whole thing is one group is dialing down to fit in and the other group is dialing up and pretending to be more than they are to try to get significance. And neither one is actually effective, unfortunately.
Well, you brought up so much there that just, man, I can't even write enough. So, I mean, so many things you brought there. But one of the first things that comes to my mind is what a great synergy between the two of you. But the thing that, of all a bunch of stuff stuck out there, but the thing that sticks with me right now that I want to touch on is the self-awareness that you are in a position where you really don't need to be so self-aware with people anymore. You don't need to share who you are at that level as you're doing, which is such a giving trait that you have. Admitting I have abandonment issues because of losing my father so young. I know that I'm awkward in this way. I know that he's going to be this way and I'm this way. I know myself, right? And I still struggle with all my success. I still struggle at that. And for you to bring that, that's really awesome, man. That's pretty huge.
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it. And a lot of people, you want to know the hardest part of that? I'll bring you in on this. The hardest part of that, and Kev says this, he says people they don't mean to hate you. It's just hard to like you. And what he said is you check too many boxes. I mean, you're smart, you're attractive, you're tall, you're accomplished, you're hardworking, all these things. He said people just, they don't mean, it's just hard to like you. It's like the arrogant villain in every film. The new Top Gun film, Top Gun Maverick, he's the best in the class and he's kind of being, he's not trying to be a dick. He's just kind of a little arrogant and very, very competent and he's by far the best. And it's just one of those things where what you don't realize is that the people who, it's hard to feel bad for someone like me. And I understand that. I do. I have a lot to be grateful for. And no one talks about this stuff because the people that are gifted aren't telling you about it. That's the thing. Like, they can't talk about it. They know they are. Like, if you ever listen to an interview with The Rock and they say, well, you work really hard, man. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, we all work hard. Yeah, it's like, that's not true. Like, you're significantly harder working than everyone else, and you know it, but you can't say it because it disconnects you from others. And then you're this pretentious butthead who... But the problem with that for me is, and again, I respect The Rock a lot, the problem with that for me is that these people who don't acknowledge how different they are, it does everyone a disservice because it makes them believe they can be like that too. And the truth is, I haven't taken a single day off in 10 years. And a lot of people want to achieve a successful podcast and they want to build a company and they want to be a CEO one day. But the truth is, if they knew what actually was beneath that iceberg, they wouldn't want it. And I think we do people a disservice. I am wired in a way where I don't actually want to take a day off. I'm a super achiever, type A. I've exercised every day for 1,016 days in a row. Like, I want to maximize my potential, and that's how I'm wired, and I have a lot of self-belief, and I want to see what I'm capable of. But I've coached a lot of people at this point, and that's not a good lifestyle for other people. Other people do need days off, and they do want to relax, and they do want to enjoy the holidays, and they do want to be home with the family at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. And they don't want to jet set around the world like The Rock for 300 days out of the year and then, say, well, yeah, we all work hard. It's whether it's an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs or a Dwayne John, like these people, I've studied them. I've met some of them, none of them, but I've met, millionaires and one billionaire. And you study these people and you realize they are different. They just can't highlight the difference. And, one of my mentors had a, 800 math SAT, just genius level, work ethic, unbelievable. But he never highlights the difference because he's trying to help people. But what he doesn't realize is how different he actually is. And when someone, I'll give you a perfect example, a last piece of this. Tim Ferriss, I respect his work a lot, and I admire Tim in many ways. There is no 4-hour work week, okay? There's a joke. It's like the only person who ever got rich on the 4-hour work week is Tim Ferriss. The truth is, Tim Ferriss has never worked a 4-hour week in his life. I mean, he worked 60-hour weeks his entire until he was his 40s probably. And he is wired differently. I mean, he went to Ivy League school. He's naturally intelligent. Like, it's very important to realize that not everyone is naturally like that. And if you think that we're all born equally, go play basketball with LeBron James. The truth is we're not. And that's okay. And if you just accept who you really are, good, bad, ugly, and then grow from that place, I think that's where you really win at life. And that's when you'll actually be fulfilled versus going for some goal like The Rock that isn't aligned with who you really are and then being deeply unfulfilled along the way and most likely never achieving it. And so it's unfortunate that we all have to, sort of shrink or puff up in this world today. And I hopefully am not doing that.
Yeah, that brings up, you're fascinating. This brings up constantly, my mind's kind of spinning around in circles. One thing, it brings up your no bullshit approach to how you work with people. It's like, dude, I'm not going to bullshit you and blow smoke up your ass. You're not The Rock, all right? There's only one Rock. There's only one Elon. That doesn't mean you can't be amazing. It doesn't mean that you can't hit all your dreams you didn't even know you had yet. Rock didn't, and he never imagined he'd be where he is today. Elon never imagined he'd be where, maybe Elon did because she's a little bit out there. But it also brings back to people don't know they may know because you talk about it, but I mean, for the first 26 years of your life, it sucked hard. I mean, the first 26 years of your life, a lot of people may have that, but then a lot of people don't at 26 go, this sucks. I gotta, I'm gonna find something. And you did, right? And that comes back to the personal responsibility. You took that personal responsibility to say, I'm not gonna do this shit anymore, right? This sucks. And not everyone does that.
Excuse me, my throat.
Yeah.
I really, again, thank you for having me, and this interview is awesome. I think when I was 14 and my stepdad left, I still have never seen him or his extended family, none of them since, not one, which definitely affected me for sure. Not to mention when we were the Lazaroses, we didn't talk to McCorkles anymore. McCorkle's my real last name, my birth father. And because we were trying to be sort of the Lazaruses. So age 2, father passed away. 14, stepfather leaves, takes 90% of the income with him. So we went from boats and ski trips and BMW, and we had a yacht, to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. Like that level of top to bottom. Not to mention this is post.com bubble, so that didn't help. And so, like, The 90s were wild, and everybody had money in the 90s. It was wild. And and after he left, it was just, not only did that crash, but then we just didn't have any income. So it was just, how do we keep the house in the family? And it was scarcity. And so I took responsibility unconsciously for my family's future. And I didn't know that I did that. But then I got straight A's in high school. I got into WPI. And for lack of better phrasing, I think in some ways I was sort of the meal ticket. And this is only in hindsight. Then I went to LA. I wanted to work in the show business. I actually had an interview scheduled with SpaceX. And my family was calling me. My girlfriend at the time was crying. My sister and my mom got into it with some stuff. And I ended up coming home and then just really trying to keep the house in the family and sort of save the family, for lack of better phrasing. And I went from 65 to 85, 85 to 105, 105 to 125, 125 to 180 grand in the span of like 3 or 4 years. And I just job hopped. And this is me coming from a broke high school and college student. But when you're a computer engineer with a master's in business in the 21st century, after '08, when the economy started to come back, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, you just get sought after. The world all needs engineers, and there just aren't enough of us. So you just get job offers all the time. I still do. And the truth is, not a lot of people understand technology in a world that deeply needs people who understand technology. And it's really complicated shit. So, I mean, I do trainings with my team, 17 people. The core team is more like 11, but 17 total. And I do team trainings that are the most basic thing ever. Phone hygiene, calendar hygiene, how to use Zoom, and I don't realize that I just know tech because I grew up with it and also was a computer engineer. And when you go to engineering school, everyone knows tech. I mean, we were mining for Bitcoin in my dorm room. Seriously, in 2007. So,
Oh shit.
yeah, it's just this weird thing. 2008, actually, 2008. But, so what was my point of all that is,
Is that yeah.
at 26, I took personal responsibility when I was 14 for saving my family unconsciously. That's a mistake. Because you can't take responsibility for something that's completely outside of your control. There's the circle of concerns. There's the things you can't control and can't influence. Then there's the things you can influence but can't control. Then there's the things you can control. And what you can control is what you say, think, do, feel, and believe, and what you say, think, do, feel, and believe in response to what's done to you. And unfortunately, I became sort of a martyr, and I sort of just wanted to save everybody and bring everyone with me and make sure everyone was successful, including my family. And at 26, that's when I decided no more booze, no more partying, no more drugs. Drugs was never a big thing, but no more drugs. I'm going to go all in on fitness, and I'm going to go all in on self-improvement. That was the personal responsibility part. Before, it was responsibility, man of the house at 14, don't know what the hell to do, figure out how to win. Externally, wealth. And then at 26, it was, I'm unfulfilled, even though I have $150,000 in a Vanguard account and I paid off 84 grand worth of debt in a single year, and my expenses are low because I was used to going without. So I drove a 2004 Volkswagen Passat that I bought in 5 grand cash. My rent is $500 a month. And then I found self-improvement, and that was like, boom, that's the answer. That's what was missing my entire life. I wish I had self-improvement. And now there's a duality here. Was there self-improvement around me and I just didn't notice it because I wasn't ready? Maybe. Or did I grow up in an environment with freaking zero self-improvement? Whoa. I am alarmed. And yes, I say this knowing anyone I grew up with could listen. I am alarmed. And I don't know if enough people admit this publicly. I am alarmed at how little guidance there was around self-improvement. And you want to talk about people who say one thing but do another? There was no leading by example in the self-improvement area and personal responsibility area whatsoever. And to me, I am wildly disappointed, particularly with the lack of male role models in my childhood.
Dude, people don't even have bookshelves in their house. I mean, I know people that don't even own a book. I'm like, are you
I,
kidding me? Your kids, where the hell's all your kids' books? Where's your kids' like educational crap? But when
the
you're
first thing I
14,
mentioned to you was the bookshelf
oh yeah,
behind
this
you.
I got thousands. I love them. They're everywhere.
Oh, it's life changing,
Yeah.
right? Life changing. You just can't see very far without books.
No, you
you
have to
know?
travel. You have to
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah,
Kids
I have to.
need to travel.
Yeah.
They need to understand other cultures and they need to read, take
Need
fantasy
to read.
exposure, and increase their mind, their capacity. But at 14, to have the awareness, it's like, I'm going to be the man of the family. That's just so bizarrely brutal for a 14-year-old to have to try to take that on. Because at 14, you just want to hit bang girls, you want to party, you want to get out of the house. The last thing you want to do is responsibility, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't conscious. And one thing I want to make sure I share here, because in the sake of transparency, I do think we do people a disservice when we don't tell the whole story. And I try really hard. There's only one thing better than the truth, and it's the whole truth. There were some advantage. I had a lot of disadvantages. I mean, I look like a silver spooner at this stage, and I understand that. But I came from like alarmingly challenging beginnings. Statistically, it's actually like unbelievably bad. Okay, regardless of that, I made it here, and I'm grateful. And I had three advantages that I want to be really clear about. Because without these three advantages, there's no way I'd be where I am. Number one, I was gifted. Everything within reason comes fairly easy to me. It always has. I remember being a kid wondering why everyone sucked at stuff. And I realized that they don't suck at stuff. I'm really good at stuff. Like that, but that's not the frame that I looked from, right? Of course, I'm not, oh, I'm so good at stuff like that compared to what there is to know, I know nothing. Compared to everyone else, holy crap.
Right.
I think I might know a lot.
Yeah.
As scary as that is to share. So number one, if you do feel gifted, you know what I'm talking about and you don't share it with anyone, but you just know. It's like, I was the guy who could party all night, still get straight A's in calc without going to class, right? Okay, so, and that I'm ashamed of too, because I wish that I had taken my education more seriously, okay? I rested on talent. I did, for too long and too much. After 26, I flipped that script and I flipped it hard. Number two is I was born in a country that invested in my mind. Massachusetts, no interest loans, financial aid, scholarships. Like, I went to a $50,000 per year college. It's kind of like a mini MIT. I don't know if you've heard of WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's like a mini MIT. There's a saying, friends don't let friends go to MIT. That's like a WPI thing. But I didn't know how I was going to go to college when my stepdad left. So I had to get all the financial aid and scholarship that I could. So I was born in a country that's the number one economy by a significant margin globally. And fortunately, there was no Child Left Behind Act that allowed me to go to college. And without that, I couldn't have. And then the third one, and I can't tell if this is just connected to the first one, I just never doubted myself. I don't want to say never. Like there was moments of how am I going to do this, but there was never, it's impossible. There was never, for some reason, I always knew I'd make it out. I have no idea where that comes from, to be completely honest. And now that I coach so many people, I realize they don't have that. So people say adversity is your advantage because it builds the emotional muscle that allows you to go do extraordinary things that ordinary people can't do. If you don't believe in yourself, adversity is just adversity. There are people close to me that have went through similar adversities to me. I'll keep it anonymous. And they didn't fare so well. And I'm thinking, like, what's the difference? Yeah, okay, I took personal responsibility. And yeah, I took my adversity and it drove me to, achieve, get smarter, work harder, aim higher. That was my trauma response. Even though socially I became a coward for sure. But these other people that have adversities that are really horrendous, similar to some of the ones I went through, their response isn't aim higher, work harder, get smarter. So adversity without self-belief is just adversity. Whereas if you have a ton of self-belief, which by the way, going back to The Rock or Elon, or you want to talk about one thing all superachievers have in common, it's self-belief. And nobody talks about it because they don't even know they have it. They don't even know no one else has it. I didn't know either until Kevin told me. He's like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. I remember one time, I'll share this briefly. I said, Kev, I never ever question whether or not I can do something. I only ever question whether or not I want to. And he's like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I go, what do you mean? He's like, no one's going to resonate with that. And I'm like, well, why not? He says, because they don't believe in themselves like you do. And I said, well, they act like they do. He said, they're mirroring you. In my world, everyone acts like they believe in themselves, but they're mirroring me. And then they go back into their own life, and I go back into my life. And then, I mean, one thing I'll just share, this is really scary for me, but when I was a kid, everyone had huge goals and dreams. All my friends. And now I'm like, what happened to you guys? Like, you said you wanted to achieve all these things. Why didn't you even start that thing or write that book or start that podcast, or you didn't even drive out there? You didn't even try. You went on 2 auditions, man. Like, what? You're not going to win with 2 auditions. Now I get it. They don't actually believe it's going to happen. Therefore, they don't put in the effort to make it happen, because why would you? If you don't believe it's going to happen, you're not going to grind. You're not going to sacrifice. And so for me, I feel like those are the 3 advantages that allowed me to climb out of some of the darkest holes. And hopefully, one of the things that I found that's a really good saving grace here is that you can build self-belief, but no one taught us how to build it. And if you want to go into that, I would absolutely adore that.
Well, we're blazing through time here real quick, and again, I don't have a lot of questions because you're just covering so many things that are fascinating. I don't even want to ask questions, but I do just have um, holistic self-improvement. You want to touch on, if you don't mind, holistic self-improvement?
Yeah, well, one of the things that early on when I first got into self-improvement, it was Tim Ferriss had a thing. He said, beware of the rich, old, fat guy in the red BMW. And I always resonated with that because I never understood why there are people that are wealthy but don't take care of their family. And I know people who take better care of their Porsche than their own wife.
Yeah.
And I just can't. I can't. And to me, I don't want to be healthy and not wealthy. And I don't want to be wealthy and not healthy. And I don't want to be healthy and wealthy but not in love. And I tell Emilia that all the time. She's the absolute love of my life, best thing that's ever happened to me. And I say, I don't want to be at the top of this mountain not in love. I don't. And we have a business together. And statistically speaking, and I'm an engineer, so I calculate this. It's like, okay, so the divorce rate is this amount, and the business success rate is only 6% in a 10-year period. So we're really, we're really crossing some, if you want to test your relationship, start a business with your wife or husband.
I did. My wife and I ran a real estate company together for 20 years before she died, and we were together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People were like, "Don't you get tired of each other?" I go, "No, I freaking love her. She's my best friend. We run our business together. She's the smartest person I know. I go to her with every question I have, even though I'm the experienced broker. But no, I get it exactly what you mean. Yeah,
Gary, you're an emotionally intelligent man who very clearly is humble enough to be sincere and ask questions. Usually, I butt heads with some men. I haven't butt heads with you at all. I have no doubt that your relationship was magnificent. And one of the reasons why is because you don't have this patriarchal I'm better than thing going on. And I don't have it either because I grew up without a dad, and my stepdad was very like that, and I just ran in the opposite direction metaphorically. And Kevin grew up without a father as well. So we don't have that sort of unconscious sexism thing. And that's why most of our listeners are women, by the way.
yeah,
For you and for me as well. But anyways, so that's awesome. And what was my point of that whole thing? Holistic.
well, yeah,
Holistic.
because you talk about life, love, health, and wealth, and who doesn't want that quadrecta of awesomeness, right?
I believe, well, here's the challenge, and I'll give the positive with the negative whole story here. The positive is, who doesn't want that? Because healthy, wealthy, and in love, I mean, that is the top of the mountain, baby. And it's you never get to the top. It's a mountain that gets higher as you climb it, obviously, because all of those are processes, they're journeys, not anything that ends. However, mathematically, I want to give people the statistics on this. If you're top 1,000, 1 out of 1,000 in health, top 1 out of 1,000 in wealth, and top 1 out of 1,000 in love, statistically, that's 1 in a billion. 1 over 1,000 times 1 over 1,000 times 1 over 1,000 is 1 in a billion. So what I want to give is a disclaimer here. I didn't realize this when I first signed up for this. Because when I was 26, I got in that car accident and I faced mortality, and I just decided, you know what? I just care about reaching my own unique potential and helping others do the same. That's it. That's my life. I'm going to dedicate my life to that. And over this 10-year journey, I've come to realize it is alarmingly difficult to be really good at all three of those.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be a fitness model, fitness coach, fitness competitor, and I went through some photos recently. I mean, I have lost it, man. And I'm in reasonable shape, but dude, there's levels. And when my whole world was fitness, it was just easier. And now it's mostly business, right? So just understand holistic self-improvement is amazing. It's important. They do feed each other. However, if you're looking for significance or a short-term fix, I mean, the only way holistic self-improvement can work is if you're playing the long game, because in the short run, it just looks like you're losing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just blazing through time. You've been so gracious. I'm so grateful for your time. This has been wonderful. I just have two quick questions. Um, did you ever imagine that next level would get to this level? I mean, did you ever imagine it would be what it is today when you started doing all this?
Well, we started out as the Hyperconscious Podcast, which is change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live. We rebranded to Next Level University probably 4 or so years in. The scary answer, but I'm going to be vulnerable, because some vulnerability is sharing what's not great, some vulnerability is sharing what is great, is, yeah, I did it. I did see, as a matter of fact, I actually think that we're barely scratching our true potential. And I'm actually alarmed at how far behind we are compared to what I had hoped. However, I am still proud of the work that we do in the world, and I'm proud of the way we make our money and the way we make our impact more than anything else. Because, and here's the truth. Let me just share this. For a podcast, we're extremely successful. We're 1% of 1% of 1%. For a business, we're tiny. I mean, Amazon makes more in 20 minutes than we do all year. So I'm proud of us, and very, very excited to grow it. And we're bootstrapping too. No investors, right? So it's we're bootstrapping, and so we're playing the long game. But I think we're at maybe 2% of our true impact.
Dude, when you guys go public, frickin' A, man, I'm jumping in because see that's a total Elon answer, right? And wherever people think about Elon, I don't give a shit. But Elon, you're the richest man in the world, and Tesla's great and all this shit. He goes, no, man, I don't even know if Tesla's gonna make it. And stuff like that. You go, dude, what are you talking about? He goes, no, we're not even scratching the surface, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna build houses on Mars. I mean, I'm gonna attach every house with Starlink. I'm gonna get, and you're just like, dude. And
Yeah.
so your answer was so Elonisk, if that's a word of yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew we were gonna get here, but I thought we were gonna get here by now. And shit,
Yeah.
we're not even there. So yeah, suck on that because I'm going. So, anyways, I want to wrap up here, but that was a great answer. Freaking love that answer.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
I,
Thank you.
I'm,
One little,
I want to watch for your ticker symbol and get in early.
I appreciate you. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things, and I'll share this tiny anecdote before we go. I always joke with Kev. I say we're selling kale outside of a candy store. There's a lot of unfulfilled people in the world, and to me, fulfilled people don't want to hurt people. And the root cause of all human suffering, I think, is ignorance and apathy. You either don't know any better, and you need education and books and travel and culture and learning and mentors and coaches or therapists, or you just don't care enough. So ignorance and apathy are the root cause of all human suffering, in my opinion. So I'm always asking myself, where are we still putting leeches on our skin to cure illness? Where are we still thinking the world is flat? Which some people apparently still think. Holy crap, like pick up a science book. Now, honestly, that's the thing, right? Is the world really ignorant, or am I just really aware? I don't know. Maybe I'm really aware. But at the end of the day, if I can help the world become more aware of themselves, others, and how the world works, why it works that way, then we can all flourish and we're better together. And so fulfilled people don't hurt people. And underneath fulfillment, what creates fulfillment is growth and contribution and a high quality of life. And you can't build that without, awareness and without work ethic and without humility and self-belief. And so that's what we're teaching. But The last piece here is Next Level U, Next Level University. It's a self improvement company, holistic self improvement. And in a world where a lot of people are maybe avoiding the mirror and they don't really want to look inside and see all the mistakes and regrets they've made, I always say to Kev, we're selling kale outside a candy store. And it's really hard. I mean, we could succeed in any other industry way more than we are. However, it's outside of alignment at this stage in my life to do anything that isn't in that alignment with sort of the mission. And the mission is to spread self-improvement, to bring self-improvement to the masses. I mean, we have it written right here, to build the most positively impactful, holistic self-improvement company in history. Now, the good news in this is apparently there aren't that many holistic self-improvement companies. So we're alone. The bad news is there's a reason for that, because it's really hard. I always say this. It's like, imagine being at Thanksgiving dinner or holiday and you know, you're at the table with your family. Try this. Actually try this. Hey, how does everyone feel about their purpose and their mission in 2025? How does everyone feel about their calling? What are your big goals for 2025? And what did you achieve for your Q4 milestones? Everyone's going to look at you like you have 8 heads. And hey, what are you most excited to improve about yourself in 2025? Like, literally try it. You're going to get crickets. But if you talk about football or, you know, some pop artist, you're going to get tons of talk. And the truth is that Netflix wins, and I know some people that are high up in Netflix and Disney. Netflix wins because there's no self-feedback. When you watch Star Wars, love Star Wars, you're not getting self-feedback. There's no mirror. When you listen to our show, I mean, it's basically, well, how inadequate are you? And what haven't you looked at about your past that might help you? And are you actually hardworking, or do you just think you are? Maybe you're arrogant. Maybe. So I tell Kev, it's not easy to sell kale in a world that loves candy. Yeah. In this case, mental kale and mental candy. And so we're trying our best, and thank you for having me, because you've now helped that mission.
You're awesome, and we got to go in 1 minute here. So I always finish with one last question, and this is it. I promise. Is I always ask people. It could be about you. It could be about your company. It could be about your family. It could be whatever you want. But if you want to leave our guests with just one thought that just means something to your heart that you would like to share as we sign off, what would that one last statement be, or that one thought that you have for our guests before we go?
I never knew why I always felt like I was the only one who loved the word potential. And the last thought would be, you have more potential than you are currently demonstrating. No matter who I meet, no matter who I coach, no matter what listener all over the world, you are capable of more, and you know it. Maybe you're not going to be Elon, maybe you're not going to be me, maybe that's okay. You shouldn't be. You should be you versus you. But you have potential beyond this. And it's your responsibility to fucking grab that and do something good with it. And that's what I would end with is, and you'll be fulfilled when you do. And that's the cool part about reaching your potential and growing, is you do feel better, even though it's atrociously difficult.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So everybody, you have been exposed to the awesomeness of Alan Lazaros. Alan, this has been awesome. With Next Level University, all of your information will be on the podcast, how people can reach you, how people can connect with all this awesomeness. And I'm super grateful for your time. This has been really wonderful, Alan. I really appreciate it.
Gary, you're so very welcome. This has been one of the best interviews I've ever done. So thank you so much. And I'm also so sorry to hear about your wife, but I am grateful to hear how magnificent your relationship was. That sounds awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate it. Take care. See you soon.
Take care.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.